Region 7 Professional Education and Development Committee is pleased to welcome you to today's presentation. The purpose of the PEDC is to support professional development activities for regional members and provide a broad range of educational services to ensure that all regional members have access to professional development programming. My name is Ashley Staley, and it is my pleasure to serve you as the Region 7 Chair, a committee member on the PEDC, and your facilitator for today's webinar. Please note that today's call is being recorded. This presentation will last up to 60 minutes. Whether you're using audio from your computer or phone, please be sure your line is muted during the presentation. If you have a question or comment, please utilize the chat feature or raise your hand. I will be monitoring the chat box throughout the presentation. We also ask for you to be sure to complete the survey at the end of today's presentation. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Stephanie Tofighi. Stephanie has a Master's of Science degree in Public Policy from the Georgia Institute of Technology, where she worked for 5 years as a research administrator in the College of Computing. For the last 4 years, she's been working in research development at the University of New Mexico's Faculty Research Development Office. Thank you so much for being with us today, Stephanie. And with that, I'll turn things over to you.
All right, well, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for joining. Today, we're going to go through an introduction on how to use the SciENcv profile system. For all of you who have been working with the National Science Foundation, this is a new parameter that they are encouraging faculty to use. Just to clarify that, they have required that a new format for the Biosketch and the current and pending are utilized, but they do have a fillable PDF option instead of the SciENcv if faculty choose to use that. But today we're going to just focus in on the SciENcv and talk about the benefits of using it, but also how to use it most effectively. So it takes less time for you and it takes less time for the faculty. So first, before we start, if I can get my, oh, there we go. So I just want to ask a couple of questions before we start. So if you could fill out these polling questions, that would be great. Have you ever used my NCBI? This is great. I like this system. All right, so I can see that most of you have not used my NCBI, so I am providing a tutorial of how to use that system to be able to use both the My Bibliography system and the SciENcv system. So it's nice to have that understanding. The next poll that we're going to do, let's see if I can do that one. So we can see the results. That's awesome. So we can see that 73% of the people who are here today have not used my NCBI, 25% have, and 2% are unsure. I totally understand that unsureness part because it's not used synonymously with SciENcv, but it is the portal that you need to use to be able to access SciENcv. I still want to ask another poll. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, oh, here we go. I think this is how I do it. Okay, so now I'm going to ask this question, and this is just for the 25% of you, and this is just so that I understand what your experience with NCBI is using the SciENcv application. Okay, that's awesome to see the NSF users. That means that you guys have been pilgrims, I guess, in its use, and you've been really going forward to be trailblazers for your universities to be able to understand how to use it. So that's really great to see. I understand the NIH piece just because my NCBI is associated directly with the National Institutes of Health, and so they use it much more frequently. Thank you so much for participating in that. That really helps me to understand who the audience is. So going forward, what we're doing here, learning about SciENcv and also through this presentation, is we're learning how to work within the NSF restrictions. And so for any of you who have already looked at the fillable PDFs, they have some limitations. There's inflexible formatting for the Biosketch, which leads to too much space for the professional preparation and little space for the other significant products and synergistic activities. Also, if you're using the current and pending document that is fillable, it's 15 pages long, regardless of how many projects you have in it. And per the NSF guidelines, you cannot change that. SciENcv also has some limitations. It has a default font size that is larger than the minimum allowed. You also can only download it as a PDF and cannot make it change per the NSF regulations. These are problems that I have brought up to the National Science Foundation, and I really hope that other people have as well, and that they will modify these restrictions, but right now this is what we have to work with. So going on, today we're going to talk about using my NCBI, talk about assigning delegates to the different pieces of my NCBI that are required for using SciENcv to create the documents. We're going to talk about my bibliography. That's the piece where you're adding in your publications if you're the owner, or you're adding in PI's publications if you're the user. So we're going to talk about those. And then we're going to talk about how to use SciENcv. So both with the NSF Biosketch and the NSF. Talk about existing documents as templates for other types of biosketches. Now this piece is really handy, especially if you're working with the same PI over and over again. You don't have to go through every step of this process to rebuild their individual biosketches. You're able to use their biosketches that are already in their SciENcv portal to be able to use as templates for new biosketches. And I'll go into more detail of that at the later part of the presentation, but just keep that in mind because there are a lot of pieces with this. I have laid them all out. These slides will be available for you to use afterwards if you'd like to. But also just practicing these steps will definitely speed up the process and you'll become more and more confident getting through it. So going on also, I'm going to use different words throughout the presentation. I use owner a lot. When I talk about owner, I'm talking about the person who owns the Biosketch and current and pending information, or they're the person who owns that particular MyNCBI account. There are times when I'm the owner because I'm using my own NCBI account to be able to practice making biosketches, practice building bibliographies, practice using the ORchid ID account. So there are all kinds of different ways that you can be an owner or you can be a user. But when I talk about an owner, I'm typically talking about the PI who has delegated authority to an administrator to access their My Bibliography or SciENcv. When I talk about a user, I'm talking about the person who has been delegated to access somebody else's MyNCBI account. This will usually be the delegated administrator. Delegate is also synonymous with user. So sometimes I'll use delegate, other times I'll use user. So first we're going to talk about how to get your own MyNCBI account. This is imperative to be able to use this system because the only people who can become delegates have to have their own MyNCBI account. There are a number of ways to create your MyNCBI account, signing in through Google account, through an NIH or ERA Commons login. You can find a third-party sign-in option. There are many organizations that are affiliated directly with MyNCBI, or you can use your National Science Foundation login information. I'm using that, and to be honest, it's cumbersome for me. And so I recommend actually just registering for an NCBI account using your email address and creating another password. I think that that's probably the quickest way to be able to log into your MyNCBI. And especially right now when we're going to have be working with a lot of faculty in a short period of time before October 5th, that's probably going to save the most amount of time for administrators who are being asked to help out with this. So once you've logged into MyNCBI, this is what your homepage looks like. You can see that My Bibliography, which is where you're going to build a bibliography either for yourself if you want to make your own bibliography, or if you want to practice making a bibliography, or for your the person that has delegated you authority, and I'll go into that in just a bit. Down here is the SciENcv portal. And this is where you go to create those biosketches and create those current and pending documents. And again, we'll talk about that as we go on. So right now we're going to talk about assigning delegates. And so this is something that only owners can do. So again, if you are in your My NCBI account, you are the owner of that account and you can delegate users to your account. If you are asking a faculty member to assign delegates, you need to give them the steps to be able to do that. So what you need to do is that once you're inside your My NCBI account, you go up here to your name and you're able to click that to edit account settings. Once you're there, you're able to see this page where you're able to then come down here and delegate who you want to be able to work on your My Bibliography or your SciENcv. And so again, this is inside my own account. Mary Jo Daniel and Monica Fischel are colleagues of mine that I've worked with to be able to practice this setup. And so I gave them access to both My Bibliography and SciENcv. I found that that really helps to be able to have the most flexibility when somebody is working within your Biosketch or your current and pending documents. And so you just find them through their email address. And again, it needs to be their email address that's associated with their My NCBI account. And so that's why both of you have to have an account, separate accounts, to be able to make this process work. Once the owner has assigned a delegate role, that user or delegate is going to get an email. And so this is the email that they're going to get. It's asking you to click on this link. And then once you click on that link, you're going to be taken to a page where you need to log into your NCBI account. And then you either need to confirm or decline the connection. I was joking with this with our VPR, and he said, yeah, it's the story of my life. You can decline the connection. I did not. I confirmed it. I took him on. So down here, once you have accepted those roles as being a delegate, you can now access different PIs, My Bibliographies, and their SciENcvs. And so again, you're looking at My Bibliography and you're looking at SciENcv. And when you come to My Bibliography, now, instead of just having your bibliography down here to manage, you also can manage all of these other people's bibliographies too that you have access to. The same thing is with your SciENcv. If you come here, you're managing your own SciENcv, or if you click here, you're able to access the SciENcv accounts for these people who have assigned you as being a delegate. So now, going on to how to use My Bibliography. Again, this is a really important tool to be able to use, because the only way to be able to add publications to a Biosketch is to be able to either use the My Bibliography portal or to be able to use the ORcid ID account. And we'll talk more about the ORcid ID. It is a separate online account that faculty, well, that anybody can use to be able to add their publications, their products, their grants, their positions. Like, they can add any of these things, but it is a separate online account. It's something that some organizations are encouraging faculty to use, and the NIH is even requiring some faculty to, some people to be able to use. And so it is an important piece to include in this conversation, but it is separate from the My NCBI. The owners can link their accounts to that, and we'll go over that. So right now, we're just talking about using My Bibliography. So it is the prime way to add products to SciENcv generated biosketches. You can be able to add citations or publications or any other kind of product in 3 different ways. You can do it from Pubmed, you can do it from a file, or you can do it manually, okay? And so all of these have their own benefits and costs. We're going to start with PubMed. Oops, there we go. So adding citations from PubMed is definitely the simplest way to be able to bring in publications to my bibliography. The reason for that is that PubMed is a product of the NCBI and the National Institutes of Health, but it is primarily, solely, biomedical literature. And so if you have faculty that do research that is relevant to biomedical research, then chances are their publications will be included in PubMed. My husband is a psychologist, and most of his publications are also in PubMed. So if you work with somebody who has their publications in PubMed, I definitely encourage that route. It is quick, it is simple, and it is very convenient when you're searching for them. You can search using title, DOI, or PMID, which is the PubMed ID, or you can even just search using the author's name to find an assortment of publications that then you can add to the My Bibliography. You can also add citations manually. So this comes about when a publication is not available in PubMed, like maybe you're working with faculty that is not working in any kind of medical related research, and so their publications are not in PubMed. Or maybe you're working with somebody who does not have an online presence necessarily. Maybe they have books that are not, you know, citable from an online account, or maybe they have a book chapter, or maybe they have, you know, some other kind of product that is not readily available on PubMed. If you are doing that, you can add citations manually. It looks as complicated or as simple as it is. All you're doing is you're putting in the title, you're putting in the authors. If there are multiple authors, you do have the option to be able to add other authors. And then you're working on adding these information. There are only these specific types of publications that you can use to be able to add citations manually to my bibliography. It's not a very long list or comprehensive list, but if you don't have what you want, they do have an other option down here to be able to use. The next way to be able to do this is to add citations from a file. I have a lot of experience helping faculty with building their bibliographies in their proposals. And so I have experience using the electronic citation platforms like EndNote, Zotero, Mendeley, Citavi. And so I have experience being able to download RIS files, and then you can upload those RIS files into my bibliography directly. They do have to be RIS files or Medline files. Again, Medline files are those that are associated specifically with biomedical research. And so it's not as far-reaching to all researchers that maybe the RIS file could be. And so these are ways to be able to download specific publications from these electronic files. PIs may already have an electronic filing system that they use that they can then share, or that they can themselves upload into my bibliography that can be used for their biosketches. You can see here that the check mark shows that these files were uploaded correctly. But you can see over here that when I went and I tried to add a Bibtex file to my bibliography, it didn't work. The selected file was not Medline or RIS format, and so it was not applicable directly to my bibliography. So you may be thinking, my engineers use LaTeX, my political scientists use LaTeX, my economists use LaTeX. Don't worry, there is another option. So you can also add citations from a file using Bibtex. So Bibtex is the electronic publication system that is used by LaTeX or LaTeX, however you want to pronounce it. And it cannot be directly uploaded to my bibliography, as I just mentioned. But you can either convert Bibtex files into LaTeX using the effective code that you can be able to use, or you can upload the owner, sorry, got to stress that, the owner, because the delegated person or the administrator cannot upload anything to ORCID or share anything with ORCID unless the owner has already given them access to that. They are able to own that. But let's make sure to specify that. So if you have been delegated to a MyNCBI account, you cannot do anything with ORCID. We're going to talk more about this. But if you have a PI who has an ORCID account, or who you're encouraging to create an ORCID account if they don't already have one, they can then upload Bibtex files to ORCID, and then they can link their ORCID account with the SciENcv account. They can link that. Again, that's not something that a delegated user is able to do, but the owner can do that. And so there is a way around that. And then I just learned that in ORCID, the PI can also delegate an administrator to their ORCID account. So again, this is separate. This is a different system than what we're talking about right now. So if your brain is about to explode and you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, I can't deal with all of this newness, never fear. Slides are here. We're going to go through this slowly. So just remember that if you're working with somebody who has a Bibtex file for their publications, there is a way to be able to access them through the SciENcv system to then add to their Biosketch. Okay, so ORCID is there. And again, that's something that only the owner is able to add in. And we'll talk about how to do that. Okay, so coming here, this is where I show you a couple of slides about how the MyNCBI owner, so again, the PI or the owner of the NCBI account, is able to add their ORCID account to their MyNCBI or their SciENcv landing page. And so these options are able to be linked, which can really help out if they have information that can be pulled for their publications. But just remember that the delegated administrator cannot link the ORCID account. So like I was just writing up an email that we're going to be sending out to our faculty, going through the steps of what to do to be able to assign a delegate. And one part of it is for them to make sure to link their ORCID account if they have it. So here you can go to MyNCBI. And again, you can see I'm not in a delegated user. I am just in my own. So I am the owner of this MyNCBI. And I go to the edit option that is here. And I am able to then add my ORCID ID. And I can be able to do that. And once it is there, then you can see that for an account where an ORCID ID is linked, you can see it here. Whereas over here, this account does not have an ORCID account linked. And so it's saying, you know, like if you've got it, make sure to add it here. But again, that's not something that a delegated user can do, only the owner can do that. So coming back to my bibliography, you can be able to switch between bibliographies really easily. Up here in the right-hand corner, you can see this option to be able to lower and have the different options of the bibliographies that you're working with. My bibliography is the one that I own, and these other users are people, and these other owners are people who have delegated me to be able to access their bibliography. It's really important to make sure that I'm using the right one, and so you can look up here to be able to see who you're in. And so right now I'm in Stephanie Tofighi's bibliography, so I am the owner of this bibliography. Over here, I'm now in Gabrielle Lopez's bibliography. And so this helps me to remember which one I'm working with. Because if I add citations to the wrong bibliography, I can't use those citations in the ensuing Biosketch. And so you just have to make sure that you're putting the right citations into the right bibliography to be able to use. Does anyone have any questions about these? This is probably a good place to make sure that everybody is not getting lost.
I don't see anything right now in the chat, but we can wait just a moment and see. And also feel free to unmute yourself and chat as well.
Yeah, the problem with this system is that you can't see it live. And so like just going through the slides, it may seem confusing. You may be getting it right away, which is fantastic. The big things to keep in mind are just that the MyNCBI is the portal that you use to be able to access both the MyBibliography application and the SciENcv application. SciENcv application is where you build the biosketches and the current and pending documents, and you use the MyBibliography to be able to pull publications into the biosketches. An alternative system or an outside system is the ORchid ID system. Only owners are able to link their ORchid ID with their MyNCBI, but once that is available, users or delegated administrators can also pull publications from their ORchid account to be able to put into the biosketches that are available in the SciENcv application. So
Stephanie, I think it's really great information because it shows us, particularly when agencies start mandating the use, that there's kind of a lot behind the scenes. I went in and got an ORchid ID and it was simple to do, but just having that ID is kind of meaningless, right? I mean, it hasn't really kind of like linked anything. There's so much behind the scenes. So an investigator who hasn't gone in and completed, you know, their bibliography and stuff, that's going to take some time to do. So
it will, yes. Yes, it definitely will. And that's something that, like, I was training a couple of grad students who are going to be helping faculty at UNM to be able to do. And that was exactly what we spent most of our time doing, was building the MyBibliography. Because there are a lot of faculty out there who are, you know, stuck in their rut. They've been doing this for a long time. They don't want to change. Maybe they're, you know, old enough that they can say, nope, I don't want to change. But for the NSF, if they're going to keep submitting to the NSF, they're going to have somebody help them at least change. And so that's kind of what we're doing, is providing those tools to be able to help. So going on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie, there was one comment that came in through the chat that we just wanted to clarify. Someone has a PI that does not like the way books go to Biosketch. He said author's name should come first, but title showed first, and she's wondering if that's true.
I am not sure about that, but the format that is spit out by the Biosketch within SciENcv, you can't reformat it. So you're just kind of stuck with whatever is there. If, however, you want to be able to, I don't know, I don't have enough experience with the ORchid ID. I don't think that you can change it though. I mean, I think that the way that it's formatting is because of the SciENcv. And regardless of how you bring that in, whether it be from the MyBibliography or it comes from the ORchid, I think it's still going to be generated the same. And so that is a problem that, again, those faculty that are stuck in their ways, they're going to have to just say, okay, I'm following what the NSF is requiring, and the NSF wants it to be in this way. So.
Thank you. And then a follow on, do you know, have you heard if NSF will make a change to the length of the PDF?
What do you mean, the link to the PDF? I'm sorry.
I am not sure. April, would you like to further explain?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We were just talking about how it was 15 pages and it seemed a little ridiculous that you can't edit that. And I was just curious if NSF knows that this is a problem. If you already have a proposal that's 25 pages, and then what if someone only has one thing to, you know, like, it just seems silly that we can't adjust the length
So that is why I say use the SciENcv. Because with the SciENcv, it does not generate extra pieces. So if you only have 3 current and pending examples, it will only, you know, be at like a page and a half, maybe, in the space. But I know that they have been, that has been addressed by the NSF, and the NSF just says, you can't change it.
Okay.
Don't change it. So I think that what they're doing, I mean, that this is what me and all of my colleagues here at the University of New Mexico, we've been speculating on, is that the NSF is really wanting people to use the SciENcv application. So they're making the fillable PDF just so arduous that it's not beneficial to use those when you have this online system. So the online system does make a much nicer product than the fillable PDFs do. But that's all I know about that right now. So just a final look at the citation comparison really fast before we go on to the next piece. The PubMed publications, again, they're the easiest to download. They're the fastest way to be able to add citations to your My Bibliography because the 2 systems are directly linked, but they can include extra information that can take up wasted space. This was a problem that I saw, oops, and I have moved this. Oh, okay. Well, it should be coming down here. I'm so sorry that I didn't see this. So down here, you can see that it includes a DOI and it includes the PMID number. And so it's got almost, it's got 2 lines that are taking up extra space in a document that is already limited to two pages, and not being able to adjust the font at all with the product. You're getting a larger text than you could possibly have. And so like when I first used the system, the SciENcv system, I took a Biosketch that was exactly 2 pages long and was compliant per the NSF regulations. I put it directly into SciENcv, and when it spit it out, it was 3.5 pages long. And so that's what the difference in font will do to you. And so if you're having to deal with these extra lines coming in from the PubMed citations, that may not always be the best option. And so this is why manually inputting and uploading a file may be a better option if you're working with a faculty who does take up a lot of that space. Like maybe they have a lot of appointments, or maybe they just have longer synergistic activities and they need places to be able to spare the space. Being able to input them manually or upload a file helps to be able to do that, because you can edit the citation. And so you can minimize the pieces that you have the option of minimizing to be able to help squeeze everything in. Alternative, oh yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject real quick about, this is Carol, about why NSF has the current pending the way it is, and the Biosketch. The first versions that they rolled out got so many complaints that they didn't meet certain other criteria. So really, especially for some PIs who have a lot of stuff, they really got a complaint about the current pending form. And so in talking with Jean separately, their backs were against a wall, and this was the best solution that they could come up with. They're really not trying to discourage the PDF. It's just that the PDF doesn't have the flexibility that SciENcv does. There's just not any way to put that flexibility in there. And so that's really what it comes down to, is all the complaints and trying to, especially Jean, she's really customer focused. So this was a really frustrating part for her. And so they're not intentionally doing that. I just kind of wanted to point that out, that they're not intentionally doing that. It's just the nature of the beast.
Sorry, yeah, and I didn't mean it to be a negative thing. Me personally, I like the SciENcv application much better than the fillable PDF. And so for me, to encourage faculty to use the SciENcv system, I see that as being a good thing. So I apologize if that sounded like I was criticizing. I'm definitely not. Just
it's just It is the nature of the beast.
Right.
Partly. I mean, you have limited space, and you don't have the flexibility in a PDF document to float space around. So.
That is true.
Sorry to interrupt your presentation. You're doing a great job.
That was a wonderful interjection, so thank you. So just going on, then we have talked about the ORCID citations. And so this is the place where delegated users cannot edit ORCID citations through the MyNCBI. So if you have an owner, a PI, who has linked their ORCID ID with their MyNCBI, and you can be able to access publications from the ORCID ID through the SciENcv system, users of the MyNCBI system cannot edit the ORCID citations. But there is a way for ORCID owners to be able to delegate trusted individuals to their ORCID accounts. So again, we're talking about a different system. We're not talking about an inclusive system that MyNCBI has with the MyBibliography and the SciENcv. We're talking about an external system that can be linked. And so this is an extra way of delegating access to researchers' personal documents or personal information. And so this is something that has to happen outside of the MyNCBI delegation. And also, in order to be able to be delegated to somebody's ORCID account, you have to have your own ORCID account. And so you can see this is just a clip from my ORCID account. You can see that I have linked my ORCID account with my NCBI. And if I wanted to add trusted individuals, I would find them through their ID number or their email address or their name. And then I would be able to add them here. And I've included the website to be able to go to, so you can access it yourself to be able to create your own ORCID account, and you can direct faculty to theirs so that they can do the same and then be able to set up that kind of delegation. So now that we have left my bibliography and we're leaving citations, we're going to come to the SciENcv application. The SciENcv application is down here in the bottom right-hand side of the MyNCBI homepage. And so you can see that when you want to generate your own SciENcv document, so again, this is you as the owner, I really recommend this to be able to practice using the system, or if you are going to be your own PI, this is definitely how you're going to do it as well. So you go to the Manage SciENcv, and then you come over here to create a new document. It's got two options to be able to create those documents. When you are creating those documents, oops, I don't go into it. You're going to be able to choose what kind of document you're going to want to make. So it could be that it's the NSF Biosketch, it could be that it's the NIH Biosketch, the NIH Fellowship Biosketch, the IES Biosketch, or the NSF Current and Pending. And so all of those options are available when you click Create New Document. This is how you generate SciENcv documents as a delegate. So instead of going to your own Manage SciENcv, you're going to click on the delegated CVs. And so whichever one you want to click on, whichever one you're working with, you will be able to see that you are in their account by coming over here. So delegated by Gabrielle Lopez. And so you're able to create a new document, and you are creating it in Gabrielle Lopez's MyNCBI. And so you're able to do that. Once you're creating those new documents, again, this is the page that you're brought to, and you're able to click which format you want to be able to use. So for this presentation, because we're talking about NSF, we're going to be primarily looking at the NSF Biosketch. You can name it a distinctive title. Say, for instance, if you're working with faculty who wants to be able to make a variety of different biosketches for each proposal that they put in, you can name it relevant to that proposal. If you're working with somebody who, you know, has a limited number of publications and a limited number of synergistic activities because maybe they're new to the field, maybe they just want, you know, a generic name of their name and the type of document that it is. For the first time that you create something, you're going to have to start with a blank document. The existing document option is where you're able to pull information from a document that's already in there. Alternatively, if someone has an ERA Commons account that they have also linked, and again, this is not something that a delegated user is able to do, only the owner is able to do it, then you can be able to pull information from there. In addition to the ERA Commons link, there is a way to link to your NSF account. It doesn't really help though. Like the way that the NSF accounts are right now, like they used to be that you would build your current and pending actually on the Fastlane, you know, account, and you're not doing that anymore. And so it really isn't as helpful as the ERA Commons definitely will be. The ERA Commons is predominantly used for the NIH. And so it may not be as helpful to the NSF, but it could be. That's not something I've had a chance to experiment with yet. So I definitely encourage you to experiment. So over here, this is the format that comes out when you are choosing an NSF Biosketch. And so you can see it's got all 4 of the required sections. And the wonderful piece about this is that it has different components already included to be able to meet the NSF requirements. And so professional preparation, it's listed in the order required by the NSF. Appointments, it's automatically listed in the way that the NSF requires. Products, I have not quite figured out how they organize the products, but it does not allow you to change the order of the products when you add them in. And so that's something that, you know, again, if you're working with a faculty who is, you know, very set in their ways, you'll just have to explain to them that this is, you know, these are the parameters that have been set by the NSF when using this system. If you want more flexibility in the order of the products, using the fillable PDF is going to be the best option for that. And then synergistic activities can be added individually, which provide plenty of space. That is something that I've noted in the fillable PDF. You have limited space for synergistic activities, and so many times it requires faculty to really condense what they're saying about synergistic activities. So here, I'm just going to go through some of the slides so you can see a little bit how it works. It is very self-explanatory. When you're adding professional preparation, you can add a degree or you can add training. This piece is really important to keep in mind. I had to think about this when I was first building my first Biosketch, just because a lot of researchers will have postdoctoral fellowships or postdoctoral experience, and that's not something that is available in degree, but instead you go over here to training and it is there. And so that's really helpful to be able to see. You can also edit what you have. So if you've included all of these different pieces and you know you're fine with it, then you go on to the next section. If there's something that you want to change, you can click edit here, and then you're able to edit or delete any of the pieces that you've added in. When you are editing something, just a note to keep in mind, when you have a training or when you have an appointment, the from and to dates are important to keep in mind, because if you leave them blank, it means that it's present. And so like if, for instance, somebody did something for 1 year and you only put in that first year, in this system, it's going to generate that they did it for that year to present. And so if that's not the case, then you need to just duplicate that year again. And so say, for instance, if this postdoctoral fellowship was just for 1 year, we would put 1991 from and then 1991 to, so it doesn't look like this professional who's been in a postdoctoral fellowship position for the last, 30 some years. So adding appointments is very similar. So again, you're going to add entries here. The same is keeping in mind that if you leave it blank, it means that it is to present. And so if it was just a single year experience, you do need to make sure to put that year in twice. And then the same thing for editing. You're just able to edit in the same manner. And so you're able to do that. When you're adding products, again, we've gone into a lot of detail about how products are pulled from my bibliography or from ORCID when it is linked by the owner. You can organize the citations through either of these ways. You can do it by publication date. You can do it by update date. So say, for instance, if you have added all of these new publications that are in this particular biosketch that you're working on, that's probably going to be the easiest way to find them, especially in a very long, extensive My Bibliography, just because there is no way to search for them easily. And so if you have a long bibliography that you work with a PI over and over again, the easiest way for me to be able to find them so far has been by organizing them by author. And so then I'm able to just search through the line to be able to find the right publications. I wish that it had some way to be able to search for them, but that's not something that is available right now. That is a suggestion that I've made to the NSF, but because this is not their system, I'm not sure how quickly they'll be able to make any changes to the SciENcv. There are compliance parameters included, which are really handy. So if you've lost track of the number of products that you've included, the system will remind you. If you try to click another product, they'll give you the warning, hey, you can only have 5. And so if you need to make a change, you need to uncheck the product that you don't want to use and then select the new one that you do want to use. And that does not matter if you are in My Bibliography or if you're in ORCID. The combined number of publications or products that is checked can only be 5. And so the system will keep you honest with that. You can only use the 5. And so then you'll do the save citations to be able to add them to the Biosketch. Coming
Stephanie,
to format, oh, sorry.
So sorry, just wanted to interject and just give you a time check. We're at about 10 minutes left.
We'll go fast. So formatting synergistic activities, again, it's a lot easier than the small condensed section that is available on the PDF, but it does include its own oddities. And so when you're adding another entry, you have the option to just copy and paste the synergistic activity here. You don't have to include numbers, it numbers it automatically. If you have a faculty who wants to include a word in bold or an underlined word or maybe even a header to a section of their synergistic activities, you can do that. You're going to find the syntax over here. And so it doesn't use a customary URL syntax or CSS. Instead, it uses its own syntax way of working. So you just have to make sure that you're using that markdown. When you want to download the PDF, the Biosketch, you can only do it in these 2 ways. So either in a PDF or in XML if you want to put it on a website. This is what it downloads to look like. It's pretty nice. And it's succinct. It has the information that you need. If Gabriel Lopez had his ORCID ID linked to here, you would be able to see his ORCID ID here as well. That's the only difference. Creating an NSF current and pending document is pretty simple. Again, you're going to go to create a new document when you are in your SciENcv. You're going to choose the current and pending support instead of the Biosketch. And you need to start with a blank document. You're just going to add in the information. Make sure that you add in both the current and pending proposals and any in-kind contributions that are not already identified in the facilities, equipment, and other resources document. You do it pretty simply. You just put in the information. You can add the years for the number of years that the project is going. The NSF does want to see this, so if their level of effort will change, they want it to be noted. Or even if it stays the same, they do want you to include all the years that the project will be going on, that this individual is going to give effort to the project. Once you have filled in all of the information, it will show up like this on your NCBI account. And then when you want to download it, again, it can only be downloaded as a PDF. And it prints out like this. And so instead of the 15 pages that is the fillable PDF, you can see that this was cut down to 3, and it includes 5 different projects. So 2 of them are current, and then 3 of them are pending. And so it organizes it like that. And it's not something that you need to move around, it does it automatically. So the last piece that we're going to look at is using existing documents as templates. This is really handy, like I said, when you have a template already available, or if you're getting your information from ERA Commons to be able to use. I see it, honey, but I've got, sorry, that's my 3-year-old. So you can see here that when we create a new document, if I want to do an IES Biosketch test, and I want to use an NIH Biosketch as an existing document, it will be able to transfer all of the information because IES uses the NIH format for their biosketches. It's very, very convenient. If, on the other hand, I wanted to make an IES test using an NSF template, it does not pull everything because the format is different, but it does pull the education and training. It pulls the positions and honors, and then it also puts in the publications, and then you should have some information to be able to add in for the contributions to education research for the IES and the contributions to science for the NIH. The personal statement, I think, is kind of fun. It actually just takes the first synergistic activity from the NSF and it adds it into that personal statement. So it does it automatically. So finally, this is a suggested checklist that I've created just to help the PIs and to help the administrators. And so these are the different pieces that I encourage both players to be able to use to be able to make this system work. And so both people need to have an NCBI account. The PI should add their ORchid account information if it's applicable. If it's not applicable, if they don't have an ORchid account, that is something that I would encourage them to do. In the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about why. For the administrator, if the ORchid account is not linked, you need to build the bibliography. Do that with the PI's publications, either through pulling them from Pubmed, entering them manually, or adding a file, a RIS file. The PI should then assign the delegates to my bibliography and SciENcv using their associated email addresses. Once the administrator has that delegated authority, then they're going to transfer the relevant information to the SciENcv application or use an already existing Biosketch as a template to be able to make more. The PI does need to share the original documents with the delegate so that they can transfer that information. And then the administrator should download the PDF and share it with the PI just to let them know you're done. The PI will not get an alert that anything is happening on their MyNCBI. And so that's why I say that there needs to be that last step where the administrator sends the information to the PI and says, okay, you're good to go. So final thoughts, this is about the ORchid ID. I was told that the NIH is now requiring IDs for individuals supported by research training, fellowship, research education, and career development awards. They want to make sure that, that faculty or that researcher is owning what they individually have, and ORCID allows them to do that. It's kind of like a social security number for your research. And so it's something that is able to help identify the work that you do to contribute to science. And so NIH is now requiring that. Other agencies may follow. So if you or your faculty have not already created their ORCID ID, this could be a good opportunity to add that to whatever you're sharing with your faculty going forward with the SciENcv. You can learn more about adding a trusted individual by following the link that I'll include there. So that is the conclusion. I hope I made it within those 10 minutes. And does anyone have any further questions or comments?
I did just want to bring attention to a comment from Lori Schultz in the chat. She was listening in today for the ERA committee for the Federal Demonstration Partnership, and she would appreciate hearing from folks, from any of you on what, if anything, is preventing you or your faculty from using SciENcv. And you're also welcome to email her. So she's left her email address in the chat. So I just wanted to bring attention to that for everybody, as the FDP is such a good partner for us. And I know that that information will be appreciated on that committee. Folks are welcome to unmute or add some more questions in the chat here. Looks like we might have another.
Yeah, there was one other comment from Barbara. It said something about the IES Biosketch also needs the % annual effort in the current and pending. So that was back when you were talking about that. She was just putting that comment in there.
Right, so current and pending is only available for the NSF. The IES current and pending, for whatever reason, is not available on the SciENcv. So I don't know if that's something that maybe IES is thinking about adding. Yeah, that might be a good question to ask them, but the only option for current and pending right now is the NSF current and pending. I'm not sure if that answered that question, but.
Mommy, look at my ancient music.
All right, well, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So with that, we'll conclude today's webinar. A recording of today's webinar will be made available on the NCURA Region 7 website. It'll be under the Education tab, which is where we post all of our presentations provided by the Professional and Education Development Committee. On behalf of the NCURA Region 7 PEDC, thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and a special thanks to our presenter, Stephanie. I really appreciate you being with us today. Appreciate all of you. Stay safe and stay healthy.
All right, thank you.